Thank you for a great presentation. Very original. All right, so what do you mean actually? I mean, are you saying that we should be using Ruby on Rails, Hibernate, Spring, all these kind of things when we're doing coding? Any frameworks that whenever we are starting coding, we have to think of like we need frameworks to do it?
No, that's not actually my point. What I was trying to, tell is that whichever framework we use, it might be our own framework or any other framework that we are maybe using. It should, or if it follows convention over configuration, our development will be faster. That's my point. If you're listening to me, he's not listening.
The thing is, so when someone is actually assumed he's doing coding in .NET, all right, and it's a desktop application, all right. So how does this configuration actually fit in? I mean, can you give some examples of what is he going to do? I mean, usually in .NET itself is a framework in that sense, and
Actually, that's why I needed more time. I couldn't describe it, but on serious notes, I'm not actually a .NET programmer. I really don't know, what kind of mechanism that they use, but definitely it depends on the framework. We cannot actually use convention over configuration mechanism with all the frameworks out there. If the framework doesn't support it, we can't actually use it. So I'm sure there are a lot of .NET developers over here. They can answer this question better, whether the framework actually has mechanisms to get in conventions of the developers. I'm mostly a PHP developer. I use Cake PHP, CodeIgniter. I'm very much familiar with Cake PHP. I really love the framework. And in there, it's totally dependent on conventions where they have a strict way of doing things. And if we follow them, it's easier and faster to develop. That's my idea, at least.
I won't actually ask any more questions. And is our volunteers ready with the microphones? Because we will be taking questions from you. All right, Hassan. Okay, go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Ask your first question.
I knew you would be the first one.
Okay, so what I was trying to ask, probably forgot, but let's try to. Okay, actually you're talking about the convention over configuration, right? So I was just thinking, like, in some case when we are developing some application or stuff, we try to keep the abstraction between the configuration layer and the application. I mean, we're not hard coding the configuration. So if we keep XML or JSON or this kind of things in a separate file, I mean configuration in a separate file, we can easily control those things. Like let's think about the Hibernate, there's that configuration, the mapping things. Hibernate has also support through the annotation, but they have this XML old thing. The advantage I feel is, if I want to change, like I have a table with a lot of fields, and I don't want to expose some stator or getter, then I can write the mapping there. Okay, so it has the whole control on me. So how you define that convention over configuration can help in this kind of situation? Okay.
Okay, let me try to answer it. But I think what you have been asking is that how actually conventions will make things easier. Since we already have got configuration files over there, we have all the controls. But why do we go, through the pain of making our frameworks convention friendly so that we don't need any configuration? So is it worth the pain? That's your question, right? Okay. Different programmers, different people will have different ideas about it. But let me tell my opinion, what I think about it. I believe that, having configuration files is also a good thing. You have more control. But what I believe is that in the long run, when the project goes on, it's modified or it's been used in another project, or maybe we're using the same code base again and again, where all the time we need to make sure that our configuration files are okay before we start a project. Now, in that kind of situation, convention over configuration can really help, since we don't have to always configure the basic stuff. So in that situations, convention over configuration can be like a blessing. So the developers can totally focus on what they have to develop instead of wasting an hour or 2 days or 3 days or even 15 days to configure a framework to run for a project. So I think that is where convention over configuration actually helps in. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, I mean for basic things like the repeated things, in that case convention over configuration could be a...
I would just like to add here, I'm not saying that this is the best configuration in the world and everybody should use it. No, I'm not saying that. It depends on the situation, it depends on how you think about your problem. Because ultimately, the programmers, how our brain works, it depends on the solution that we're trying to give. So, I guess I'm talking too much. So it all particularly depends on who you are and what kind of problem you're trying to solve. And there may be some situations where convention over configuration may be of great help.
Okay, one more question. Okay, we just have to move on. If you have more questions, you can go to our mailing list at sqabd.com and post your questions, and Ahsanul Bari will hopefully answer it with a lot of criticism from everyone else. A big hand from us for Ahsan.